What up, all? This is the Browns breakdown of Calling the Field Stands. We just wrapped up, week 5 of the NFL. The Browns just got their asses slapped by the 49ers on Monday Night Football, national TV. And with that being said, Jeffrey, I'm going to toss it to you. What is your initial reaction to what we just saw Monday night, two nights ago, I guess, at this point. Right now it's Wednesday.
We are stinky in
We stink.
every aspect. On offense more so than defense. The defense has played a lot better all season than the offense. And, they're hit with injuries on that side of the ball. So Freddie Kitchens and Baker have not lived up to, the hype of why we got excited after seeing what they did last year. Baker has got to get it together. I think when you're thinking long-term about this team, I have hope that Baker is still a legitimate quarterback. And right now, what you're seeing is teams can kind of, they have film on him from last year. They can kind of switch things up on him, maybe confuse him a little bit more. There is a significant learning curve in the NFL. So I do have hope and faith in Baker Mayfield, where I'm a little more concerned lies with Freddie as a new head coach in the NFL. Something's not clicking on this offense, and there is some goofy shit we're seeing with this offensive play calling. There's no rhythm to a game. Like, Freddie Kitchens can scheme up an awesome play. Well, guess what? So can every single offensive coach in the NFL. Few can call effective games. And guess what? Shanahan on the opposite side of the ball. Oh, man, did he call a game that was so well balanced. I mean, first play of their possession, obviously, they had a house call. And he even said, they love using a fullback. They don't shy away. They use a fullback. They run the ball. And it's all predicated off of zone blocking. And right off the bat, they hit us they mixed things up, went with zone action to the wide side of the field, and they did a misdirection. And
linebackers got slaughtered.
Oh my God! So Mac Wilson, rookie linebacker filling in. He was on that weak side. And he did
not have a good game.
As soon as he saw zone blocking to the wide side of the field, he gone. He fucking bit.
Yes,
and then Randall over the top. My God.
There's not a whole lot he could have really done at that point. He has one-on-one from 15, 20 yards away. Good luck.
It's true, but, that's his responsibility.
At least slow his ass down, I guess.
Took himself out. But anywho, where I was going with that is, Kyle Shanahan called a good game. The 49ers had it going on both sides of the ball. And like I said, Freddie Kitchens really needs to figure out what our identity on offense wants to be. And he needs to find what is effective based on what we have here and get this thing moving in the right direction.
Yeah, that's a good point where you mentioned about the identity, because there certainly isn't one that I can really think of offensively. And, you talked about the defense having a lot of injuries and guys filling in. Obviously Kirksey, we're going to have a guy filling in that spot the entire season. Maybe see Grady and Denzel back. Apparently I heard they were back at practice today. Like I said, today's Wednesday. But like you mentioned, Shanahan, he is one of the better play callers and offensive orchestrators that we've seen in quite some time. And he's, throughout his entire career, has been just that. And this is the first time that we've seen the defense. There's been injuries the last couple of weeks, and this is the first time we saw an offense exploit those weaknesses and take advantage of what we're lacking defensively. Wilkes has done a really great job defensively up to this point, I think. Obviously, outside of last week where they got kind of shelled in every facet of the game. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't cover anything underneath, whether it was a tight end or a running back. So it was the first time that they got exploited. It is a matchup league. They didn't match up real well, defensively versus the 49ers, and offensively, same thing. Just the matchup just wasn't there. Their pass rush is great. We had no stop for him. You harped on Baker and his lack of success so far. There's just so many. You mentioned, lack of identity. There's so many points of the offense that are going awry and just aren't working and just make no sense. And there's no rhythm and there's nothing really going on. Whether it's the play calling, whether it's the lack of successful, pass blocking, our tackles are getting blown off the edge every fucking play, it seems. We have tight ends going one-on-one against Nick Bosa. What the fuck is that? Baker Mayfield doesn't want to make a decisive throw and, make a read and get the ball out quickly. I don't know if he's just missing reads, if he's trying to make more, of what he needs to, whether it's, I can get this underneath or I can try to force this throw downfield. It's really hard to really understand and read what he's kind of thinking or the process that he's going through. But all I know, what I see is his indecisiveness, and I kind of highlighted this on Twitter a little bit with some recap videos, and hope to bring some more of those as we go along through the season and week by week. But he just doesn't look like we saw him look last week, and I don't know, like I said, if it's play calling or if it's just his lack of wanting to take the underneath. I think a lot of part of it is he is sensing pressure, whether or not it's going to come or not. I feel like he has no confidence that his offensive line is going to block and hold blocks. He senses pressure coming before it even does, and sometimes it never does because they actually do recover enough to get the block on the outside or up the middle or whatever the case may be. Yes, they're getting beat off the edge on the tackles. The tackles suck in pass protection. We saw that early in the season, and we saw them kind of do a little bit of a 180 in the Ravens game and really hold their own. And we kind of talked about maybe they're not as bad as we think, and maybe they are able to kind of hold their own. No, they suck. They fucking trash.
Yeah, they didn't stand much of a chance.
No, the guards are getting blown off the ball straight back. So you got edge rushers coming off the edge, and then you got the guards getting blown off straight towards the quarterback. What is he going to really do? If he's not getting the ball out quick, he's fucked. And that's exactly what we saw.
Well, going into the game, we talked about getting the ball out quick was going to be key.
That's what worked against the Ravens.
It just doesn't
completely went away from that.
Yeah, it didn't seem like there was emphasis on getting the ball out quick other than the freaking screenplay we ran on our own 2-yard line on third down. Jesus Christ, what the hell was that?
Wasn't it like 3rd and 20 anyways?
Yeah, it was.
Who the fuck cares?
That's a risky ass
The game
play.
was pretty much a wrap at that point.
Yeah, so the goofy stuff on offense that bothers me was like you already mentioned. There seriously were cases where we had a tight end one-on-one versus Nick Bosa. And sometimes in the play action game, you do have to take risks, and that is going to happen. But when you do that, you have got to get the fucking ball out fast, or it's going to get blown the hell up. Boom. Then
snap, read, get the ball out.
There were other times.
You're fucked. And I think that one instance, we're both talking about, and I think it is the play that we highlighted on Twitter. You got tight end coming in. He's got one-on-one. So Baker needs to read the quick throw, and I feel like he didn't see it open, or maybe he was looking elsewhere, or whatever the case may be, and immediately he knew Nick Bosa ain't getting stopped by this tight end. Let me get the fuck out of here. And he needed to deliver the ball. His indecisiveness and his lack of getting the ball out quick fucked him.
Right. And then there was another instance where we had a tight end lined up on Bosa's side, which is great. But the tight end went out for a pass immediately and didn't even chip.
You got it. What every
the hell
time.
Is the point? So
I think that's coaching, though.
Yeah, it is. Coaching. It ended up resulting in a strip sack that I think we recovered. I think we recovered the ball on that particular play, but it's like if you have a tight end, there should be a tight end lined up on his side every single time, and he better be chipped every single time.
At least chipped, if not double teamed. With the tight end.
Then the other odd thing is, and I don't want to run Chubb into the ground because if he goes down, I'm really scared about our running game. But he's clearly our best pass blocking running back. So like if you want to get him rest, take him out on second down if you're going to run it on second down, and let Hilliard tote the ball a little bit, or run play action with Hilliard in there so that Nick Chubb can be on the field on third down. Like,
don't shy away from getting our other running backs touches in the running game. Like, yes, they're not as good as Nick Chubb. We want our run plays to be maximum, potential with giving the ball to our best, running player. And honestly, our best offensive player to this point in the season. But at the same time, and I did want to touch on this before we move past the offensive line. The offensive line has looked atrocious, like we mentioned, and we kind of thought that maybe they recovered a little bit and they had some shit going on a little bit against the Ravens, and maybe that'd carry on. No, their pass protection is trash. However, looking at the replays and watching the film and everything like that, the offensive line run protection or run blocking is actually looking pretty solid.
It's not too bad, man.
Like, we all want to give all the credit to Nick Chubb, and he's a fucking beast, and all that is true. Don't get me wrong. He is a beast. He's one of the best running backs, and he's one of the most underrated guys who doesn't get a lot of the credit yet, but I think he's soon going to if he hasn't already gotten in that conversation. But the run blocking has been very good, in my opinion, at least from this past week. I didn't watch the Ravens game. I watched the previous week against the Rams, and I watched all the film, all the offensive plays from this past week. Greg Robinson in particular gets shredded in pass protection, but he looked pretty damn good in the run blocking. He's getting out in front. He's making great seal. He's doing a lot. And their whole offensive line, it seems like they're really running to the left side more frequently. I really had to chart it, which I didn't do. It's kind of just my first instinct. It seems like they're running more to the left side. You got Batonio. Treader has balled the fuck out also from the center position in both aspects, passing and run blocking, but particularly run blocking. He's looked awesome. Batonio, obviously, run blocking has been next level, really, really good. He's an Pro Bowl caliber guy. But Greg Robinson, who gets shredded by everybody, rightfully so, because, and like we mentioned, a defensive lineman gets off the edge and gets 2 sacks in a game. He had the greatest game ever. As an offensive tackle, you give up 2 sacks, you're getting shredded.
You're trash.
And that, that's respectfully, whatever. But it gets overlooked, the plays that he's making in the run game. And, he's doing it. He's looked very good. Their offensive lines look very good. And we need to, we need to rely on the run game. We need to have that be our main focus. It's okay to be a running team in the NFL right now.
What you need to be doing, every NFL team, is play to your strength. Let's face it, right now the passing game is not getting going. You heard, if you listen to Shanahan speak, like I mentioned already, he does not shy away about what he uses and what their identity is on offense.
One of the few teams in the league that even has a fullback, let alone uses
they use
them
the
as
fullback.
Much as
they use the run.
check.
They are a run-heavy team to set up the pass, and they're effective at it. Guess what? We've been effective at running the football, especially with Nick Chubb. So, it's one thing to say, like, hey, let's get the running game going and that will help set up the pass, but actually do it. Get the running game going and marry that with your passing game. Let it open your passing game up with play action. If Baker likes scrambling, do play action rollout. Have him roll the pocket, keep a tight end in to block on the side he's rolling out. Get some quick routes going, and soon, things will start clicking. Things will start opening up. But that's our strength right now with our offensive line and how, we've only been successful when the running game is getting going. So
real quickly, looking at the stats, and we talked about, Nick Chubb, 16 carries, 87. That's 5.5 average per carry. And then you had Beckham with 2 carries for 15 yards. No other running back got a touch. No running back on second down is coming in for Chubb to give him a breather on second down to run for a 3-yard gain. That needs to definitely happen.
It needs to change.
But
the other thing is, while we're on offense, I don't want to see any more goofy trick play shit that we're like, Freddie, that game seemed like he was forcing himself to get the ball to Odell rather than naturally letting the game play out. So I don't know.
Yeah, my initial reaction to that, and some of the trick play, goofy stuff, was maybe a little bit forced, and maybe it was a little bit over ambitious to just try to feed Odell the ball. I don't really have a whole lot of problem with what they wanted to do in that respect. The play calling, it can definitely be scrutinized, and the scheming I guess maybe the scheming is what I mean. The scheming needs to be better coached, but the play calling in general, initially I kind of thought like, this is what the fuck are we doing kind of thing. But after rewatching it more in depth and watching all the different plays, the play calling wasn't really that off. And much like the Titans game, I felt like the Browns their hands were forced early on in the game, especially in the first half. And we had the turnovers, the dropped touchdown pass by Callaway, who should be sliced off the team. Fuck him. The game was over at that moment. You have a chance to go 14-10. Instead, it's going 7 the other way. Next thing you know, it's 21-3, or maybe they kicked that field goal that time. Whatever the case may be, the game was over at that moment. Baker's ill-advised fucking pick from Sherman. I don't know why he's not hitting the under route for what would have probably been a first down. There's just a lot of things that the play calling's hand got forced because of the situation they were in. I mean, you were down 2-3 touchdowns. What are you going to do? Fucking run the rock every play?
Right.
Like, I get it. But at the same time, yes, we need to see more Nick Chubb. We need to see more, diversity in the backfield, like you mentioned. But
it's still the first half. I mean, you've seen
Correct.
games where it's
Exactly.
a tale of two halves, where one team comes out a slinging and buries you, but then in the second half, it's like a total. So it's like,
I mean,
they weren't in panic mode yet. One thing I worry about is how young of a team we are.
Yes.
So when they do have adversity in the game, like, what are they saying on the sideline? Like, oh shit, here it goes again.
They quit this past week, bro.
Yeah,
they quit. They rolled over
for sure.
Quit. And I really want to see the leadership over the next few weeks. Like, we have a tough schedule over the next couple of weeks, and this whole stretch of games has been super, super difficult. And, might lose the next two games. We might start 2-5. But our playoff hopes, especially in our current division, are far from gone if we start 2-5. So we're going to see what kind of leadership they have in this locker room, whether it's Baker, Freddie, the both of them. You got Juice. Odell's one of the more veteran guys on the entire offense. And I mean, really on the entire team, really, when you look at the depth and the youth of the team, you need some of these guys to step up. And we're going to really see, I mean, you see all the national media about, we got all these talkers and we got all these big personalities. It's time for those big personalities to show what they're worth and really lead this team, especially if we lose the next two games, because the season is far from over if that happens.
Yeah. I mean, if guys start quitting, especially if they do go 2-5, I mean, that's how people get fired. I mean, That's when things start getting ugly. So, do
you think it starts at Freddie or Baker or John Dorsey, or where do you think it, if shit goes south, where do you think that leadership blame or lack thereof, where does that come from, do you think? Where's the pivotal point? Also, maybe that's the question. Like, who is the most important leader right now to step up and lead the team through these difficult times?
Baker Mayfield.
It's Baker more than Freddie?
I think it's a twofold question. Most important is Baker Mayfield, because that's where your investment is. You've got a bet. All your chips are on, they're on Baker right now. He's your franchise quarterback. We don't want to go down this path where he isn't a leader and his play really starts dwindling and we're back to square fucking one where we don't have a quarterback. So he is the most important. Now, who's going to take the blame if things do go south?
Right.
That's Freddie. He's gonna take the blame, and he'll be the first one getting kicked out of the franchise. So really, they're both important.
Sure.
I mean, they both need to step up.
That's fair assessment. That's fair.
We hired Freddie as our head coach because, one, I think they did talk to Baker about who he was comfortable with, and I think his opinion was Freddie.
Yeah. Whether or not he straight up came out and said it, I think it was pretty obvious to the Dorseys of the team, whoever was making the ultimate decisions, which one would assume would be Dorsey. I think everybody kind of knew where Baker was mentally and who he wanted in there.
Right.
He got what he wanted.
So, yeah. So, and obviously the offense looked really good last year when Freddie and Baker got things going. So, people are throwing in the towel on Baker and saying, hey, should he really be questioned already? Look, we'll both admit he has stunk. I mean, he has turned into a turnover machine.
Yep.
This season. It is what it is. He
bad
stinks
decisions,
right now.
Bad play, bad throws.
But the thing is, look at how he handled last year. His head coach, he barely gets any time with the first stringers in preseason.
All
what
accounts,
the fuck?
no even reps.
Yeah,
with the firsts.
So then
all through camp
in the season, they're all they continue to be adamant Tyrod is a starter. He gets injured. Baker comes in, beats the Jets. Then his first head coach gets fired during the season. They've got a goofy ass interim head coach who has quotes saying, "Put your ball sack in the C gap" or whatever the hell he said.
So I got fucking lozenges, bitch.
Yes.
That's fine.
So there's a lot of adversity in his rookie season, and look at what he did. I mean, he put up some serious numbers and looked good doing it. So he's still young. He's handled adversity in the past. Right now, I think there are a lot of things in the pot. When the offense isn't clicking, it's not just, you can't just point to one person. You got to point to everyone. Monken, Freddie, Baker, each individual player's execution on every play. So there's, it's complex. There's a lot going on right now. So I have hope and faith in Baker that he's still a good player. I don't think it's time to panic about Baker. And I think right now you're seeing defenses confuse him a little bit. I think, like you said, we've played some really good defensive fronts. He's feeling the pressure, no doubt about it. His one bad habit in college was he bails early. So his pocket presence right now might be a little shaken up. So there's a lot going on. So hopefully against the Seahawks, we just really need to see improvement on offense, top to bottom, really. But it starts with Baker and Freddie.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good assessment and outlook. And, much like you, I have all the faith in the world in Baker. I mean, his talent didn't just go away. What we saw in the past and what we saw in college and what we saw carry over to the NFL and what we saw from his first game against the Jets to his final game of the year and all the progression that we made through the season, the success we had in the offense, that all didn't just go away. He didn't just forget how to read the defense. He didn't just forget how to deliver a ball across the middle. All that's still there. He just needs to kind of pull it all together. There's a lot of aspects of why that isn't coming together, as kind of we mentioned during this conversation. So I definitely have faith and confidence that Baker is the guy. And I mean, personally, I still have confidence that they're going to win the division still. I think they're going to get it all figured out, and it's going to kind of all gel a little bit more, as we kind of go throughout the season. The schedule was really light through the back end of the season. They could easily win 7 games straight to end the year. But real quick, before we kind of go past the Browns and wrap up this episode, and I want to make it a quick one. We talked about the offense. Are you concerned, or what do you see that needs to come together on the defensive side of the ball? Yes, we have the injuries and all of that, but they looked like fucking ass last week. Unlike the first few weeks of the season, especially with the injuries, they've overcome that. What's your real quick assessment on the defense right now, and are you concerned with the performance that we saw last week?
I'm not really concerned long-term about the defense. They were also, I know they gave up the big run on San Francisco's first play and all that, but they were not put in a good position to succeed in that game anyway from the offense. I mean, when we're giving the ball to the other team, that, let's face it, San Francisco runs the ball effectively.
Sure do.
When you give the ball back to a team like that, they're going to beat your defense up no matter how good your defense is. It's just is what it is. I mean, this defense is more so predicated to play with a little bit of a lead, especially late, and let our defensive line feast in pass rushing. That's what we're built for. And we've already seen, we've gone up against good passing teams without our 2 most talented corners, and our secondary has held its own. What happened against the Niners was, since we gave the ball back to them, they were allowed to get in rhythm with their running game, and it all set up the passing game from there, and it just goes.
Right.
It goes.
Especially
they were
early.
up against it.
They give up that big-ass play, first play of the game. Very next play from scrimmage, Baker throws a pick. Already at the disadvantage. They score. We go down, I think, maybe kick field goal, whatever. We end up fumbling again in their in their position, and they scored points off of that. Like the turnovers, everything kind of fell apart offensively and put the Browns defense in a very disadvantage to really do anything. So I don't disagree with you. I don't really have an opinion one way or the other based on my confidence or whatever. It's interesting to hear what you had to say, and I kind of like where your head's at. And I hope that kind of goes through. I know, like I said, Greedy is supposed to be back. Well, Greedy and Denzel maybe are back. They're back in practice today. We'll see if they're able to suit up. That should help. And, yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they respond after a fucking shellacking like that.
No doubt. I mean, it was a tough loss, tough to deal with as a fan and as a player, I'm sure. So, hey, coming back home.
Yeah. I wanted to say real quick before we wrap up, what are your kind of keys and outlooks real quick upcoming this Sunday against the Seahawks at home? What do the Browns need to do to get victory, and what do you hope to see all come together this weekend on Sunday?
Defensively, Russell Wilson is a beast. I mean, he is one of the top quarterbacks in the league, no doubt about it. And if we let our pass rushers get upfield or break contain, he's going to kill you with his legs. He's going to extend the plays and throw the ball downfield. It's already difficult enough to run with NFL receivers for an extremely long time, let alone with, our cornerbacks being out. So they got to find a way to contain Russell Wilson. And they still have to get pressure on him though, and make him feel uncomfortable. Offensively, I mean, it's the same talking points we've already hit on like every week on how this offense can be successful in our minds. Get back to getting Nick Chubb established on the ground. I think we're both in agreement. Like on early downs, get Hilliard in there and let him tote the ball. That's where
Chubb
you need
fresh on third down.
Yeah,
he can
exactly.
catch the ball out the backfield.
Yeah, exactly.
He can pass protect better than certainly better than anybody else we have on the team.
And we got giving Baker time is key. So if we're in a passing down on third down, it'd be nice to see Nick Chubb out there more. So if you got to give him a break, what you do it on an earlier down and mix it up a little bit. So, that's kind of it'd be nice to see the offensive line bounce back a little bit.
Sure.
I mean, they got Jadeveon Clowney. They typically have a really good defense. They're well coached. They got Bobby Wagner.
Yeah. So similarly, defensively, my quick take is my point of emphasis, I think, is I want to see him stop the run. Like you kind of mentioned, we whether it's playing from a lead, I think more of the point, you mentioned their defense is built to play against the lead. I think the flip side of that is they're built to play against a team that's trying to pass a lot. So if they can stop the run, whether or not we have a lead, I think that's kind of the point you were getting to.
Yes.
If we can stop the run, I think it's the main priority that they need to do, especially after the bounce back from what we saw against the 49ers and lack thereof stopping the run. So if we can stop the run a little bit, force them into passing situations, make them throw the ball. Our secondary is good enough, even with our backups coming in. I think that's the key on the defensive side of the ball. And offensively, similarly what you said, get Chubb going and get the ball out quick. It's been the same harping points that we had preseason, after the first couple of weeks, into the last couple of weeks, and into the future. It's not really going to change with just the setup of our team right now, with the lack of pass protection capabilities from our offensive line. Like I mentioned, I really have kind of faith that their offensive line is able to get some pressure and move some guys and open up some lanes for the running game. So let's set the tone with the running game, get the ball out quick, and stop the run on defense. And I think they have a really good chance to beat one of the better teams in the NFL this upcoming week. So continue to improve, continue to kind of figure shit out. It's a young team, new coach. Baker Mayfield's still young. Everybody kind of forgets that. Got a lot of room to improve, of course, but I think they can bring it all together, and we'll see what happens this Sunday. I'm excited for the game.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see how they respond. It'll really tell a lot. I mean,
sure.
So hopefully they get that victory. Just we got to see some promise on that offense. We thought we did versus Baltimore.
Right.
Got really excited
after that.
We thought it would start clicking after that, and then we watched what played out Monday.
Yeah, so let's turn it around. Baker set the tone, and I got confidence this week. It's going to be a good game. So, all right, bro. Well, that's our Browns breakdown. We're calling the Field Stance Podcast. Ryan Denchef here with Jeff Mapis. Thanks for listening. Till next week. Peace.